Everybody, my name is Donna, also known as Donna Janell, CEO and founder of Parenting with a Purpose. Our strive here at the podcast is to reach every home, whether it's single moms, married, single dads, whatever it is, foster parents, whatever, just bringing the ownership and responsibility and nobility back into parenting. Get comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. All parents need some help and guidance, and I'm just here to be a guide. Hey everybody, welcome to Parenting with a Purpose with Donna Janell. Right here. All right, I'm sorry y'all, got to get this thing right. Hey everybody, again, this is Donna Janell with Parenting with a Purpose, where the purpose is to bring the responsibility, nobility, and beauty back into parenting. That's one of my passions. That's one of the things that I like to do, and it doesn't matter what type of parent you are. You could be male or female, father or mother. It doesn't matter. Parenting comes in all types of styles and unique situations. And today, my guest, as you know, last week we were here with Tamara Lally, and she was telling us what's life like with raising her son, Byron, who was diagnosed with Down syndrome. And as you know, there's not much talk about Down syndrome, especially in the African American community, which actually is one of the highest levels of Down syndrome, but there's not much talk about it. But she shared the life and how it is. Byron is now 41. Wow. So she was giving us some insight about how it is raising Byron and the challenges and the celebrations and things like that. So much so that we're actually going to have a part 2 with Tamara Lally, which is awesome. And she actually want to bring the siblings so they can give us some insight with like how it is having a sibling with Down syndrome. So a whole family dynamic is what we're going to do later on next month probably. But today our guest is Porsché, and she's going to talk to us about raising a son that was diagnosed with autism. And most of the time we don't really kind of want to label our kids, but we just know that he's unique. Mm-hmm. And Portia's going to give us some insight in it. So. Hey, Porsché.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And is Byron going to come on the show too?
Byron was on the show, so Byron is so. Byron was on the show last week, and we called him like a little guest appearance because he was standing there for a little bit. Then Byron he gets like, tired. He like, listen, I'm out. So the lady that helps take care of Byron, Miss Franny, she was out in the hallway, and Byron first he kind of stepped out for a minute, and then he was like, nah. So he came back in, and he stayed there for a pretty long time.
That's awesome.
And then he came back and went into, because some, stand there. They have their own, on Facebook, they have a Facebook Live that they do every Saturday. Okay. And sometimes Byron's on there, sometimes he doesn't. But, sometimes, kids who are unique, they don't have time for all the extraness.
Right.
It's like, what you going to do with me? And let's
exactly.
go.
Like, what's going on? All right, I'm out of here. Yeah. I got something else important to do.
Exactly. They got more important things to do, right?
Yeah.
So that was exciting just to see him, I think it's so important so that people can see it versus that we just telling them, hey, I'm raising this kid. This is, because it's not a lot of, one of the things that, when Tamara was on, she has a couple books. She has a website. She goes to schools because the books have brown children in them. And there's not, like, when you talk about kids that have special needs or unique kids, you see a lot of Caucasian kids in these books. And then, I'm a nurse, and in nursing school, a lot of these pictures are full of Caucasian people. And I'm like, I know in the community, there's a lot of the community, especially the African American community, that have children that are unique and special, but we're not talking. And a lot of times the medical stuff is geared to the Caucasian people because they're the ones that we talk about more versus what works for a child that's African American and a child that's Caucasian. Right. So I think that's one of the things, hopefully, as I continue my nursing journey, that I'm able to, bring to the table and say, listen, let's start doing some research on some African American families.
Right.
It's out there.
Yeah, especially in our community because we're the highest population of it.
We're the highest population, top of seem like everything.
Yes,
right? It's like
yes.
Everything. I just was doing something at school in my psychology lifespan, and it's like the top this and the top. I'm like, I don't really want to be the top for violence. I don't want to be the top for this and the top for that. Like, let's be the top for something else. Can I be the top being wealthy?
Okay, come on. Yes, where the money resides.
Right. So that is crazy. So, but thank you for coming.
No problem.
I watch you when I've come here for meetings and doing my show and different things. I watch you with your son, and I just, I'm a pediatric nurse, and I specialize in special needs children.
Okay.
So I love special needs children. Mm-hmm. They're unique and they're amazing. So
yes.
I've been doing this for a long time. So when I see your relationship with your son and how he is and how you is, I'm just like, wow, that is so awesome. Like,
thank you.
I love it because, sometimes people tend to think that because their child is unique that they need to be ostracized or set in a corner or don't list, just go about your business. But one of the things I love about Lolly, Tamara, and you, that you guys actually incorporate your kids in your everyday living.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, it's a separate life. It is a life that, when I look on your Facebook, you keep that young man sharp.
Thank you.
I showed my sister today. You keep him sharp.
Thank you.
He just need to be a model. The way he is in his clothes. Oh,
thank you.
I'm like that. And I like how you label everybody's nephew.
Yeah, that's your nephew. Get your nephew.
That's my nephew right
there.
there.
Everybody, when they see him, they be like, "Hey, nephew." That's my Facebook nephew right there. People be like, when you gonna post some more pictures of my nephew? I be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll make sure I post them. I don't want no problems from Jay's Facebook aunties and uncles out there.
And I think that is so awesome because a lot of people are ashamed of their children. They're, if your kid has special needs or complicated or anything, we're not to see pictures of them or how you're living or anything like that. It's almost like, and I don't know if that's from something back in the day, because children like that, they used to institutionalize or they used to euthanize them.
Yeah, right. That is true.
They were trying to utilize any kid that didn't seem quote unquote normal.
Right.
Because they thought that the society was going to be destroyed by a kid that wasn't like everybody else. Right. Or whatever. So they used to euthanize them and then institutionalize them.
Right.
So I think that's generations way before us.
Yeah.
But I think that with our generation, we're like, wait, these are kids. What you doing?
Yeah, they're here for a reason. They survived all the stuff that they said wasn't going to happen for them. And autism is like an umbrella, so it's like all different levels. One kid, autism is not the same as the other, all those type of things. But my whole thing is, I'm in Jace's world. So, that's how I feel. Everybody should be. I'm not going to tell him to calm down if he's stimming, if he's making noise, all this. No, they want our kids, our unique kids to fit into, what is normal, but this is his normal. Right. Who am I to say what's your normal, Right. So I always made sure, I'm going to bring him out. I took him to Chichester, they had a play at the middle school. So one of the little girls from my church was in there. I took him to the play. He really enjoyed it. He was stimming a little bit. He was just making a little bit of noise. And it's everybody just turned around. And, also as a parent, you're very protective over your child.
Right.
And especially if your child has special needs, you don't want anybody to judge your child. You don't want anybody look at your child weird. And sometimes I guess I might get a little bit of anxiety because I don't want them to look at him oh, he's special. Oh, well, what's wrong with him? Because, autism doesn't have a face.
Right, exactly.
So when you look at him, you don't know he has autism. You don't know he's nonverbal. So kids will come up and be like, oh, hi, what's your name? What's your name? And I have to be like, oh, well, his name is Jace. He doesn't talk, but he learns things differently. And I feel educating the kids a lot more about autism is good too, so they can kind of understand. I know Daniel Tiger, Sesame Street, they had episodes with kids who had autism. And they were well, why doesn't they want to play with us? And the teacher was explaining, they like certain things or they don't like loud noises and things like that. So I feel now it's starting to become more pushed, where it was kind of okay, they're autistic and that's it.
Right.
So I feel now it's becoming more prevalent, and I just want to make sure he just lives his best life. He's still a child. He still, has his his wants, what he likes, what he doesn't like.
Right.
Like he still has his preferences. I mean, we all have our days. So I was just like, I'm just gonna bring him out. I don't care, what people think, how people feel. Like this is my child. He's here for a reason. Because he was a 23 weeker.
I was about to ask you. Tell us, break us down.
So,
the beginning,
So I had 23-week twins, Jace and my daughter Amara, but she passed away 11 days after I had them. Jace was like the sickliest one out of the twins. So they were telling me like if his lungs collapse, we can't revive him because he's so little. Like
right.
He's only a pound or 4 ounces. Like we can't do anything. Like they like look at his X-ray. I still have his X-ray. They're like look at all these holes, like all these bubbles. So it was like really like touch and go for him. Like I was always worried about him. Then he had like grade 4 bleeds of the brain. So they like, oh, he can have cerebral palsy and all this stuff. And I'm like, Lord, like, what am I going to do? So, he beat the odds. He came home. He was like on a little bit of oxygen. And he kind of weaned himself off of the oxygen. Every like milestone he hit in the NICU, he like weaned himself off. Like when they took him off the ventilator because he kept turning his head.
He was like, I don't want
this. So they put it in. They put the ventilator back in him. He did it again. And they said, well, let's try the CPAP. So then he got on the CPAP, and then with the cannula, he was messing with the CPAP. So they tried they put the cannula in him, like all this stuff. Like he started wearing clothes because he kept like moving around so much. And they was like, well, we're gonna like swaddle him, so you can bring clothes. So everything, like I always say, Jace does what he wants to do.
Right.
Like, he came in this world, like he came in this world first. Like he's the oldest twin. Like he does what he wants to do. So it's just amazing to see like all of his milestones because I already knew he was going to have some delays because he was premature. So he had early intervention. I had all of that set up. So he's been getting he was getting speech, PT, OT at a very young age since like he came out of the NICU. And then I noticed like because they say with preemies, like when they get to like almost 2 to 18 months, they kind of catch up.
Right, yeah.
So I noticed he wasn't like kind of like talking like really a lot. He would say like mom and like dad, but it really wasn't like he was saying it to me. So I was like, you know what? I want to get a developmental test. So I talked to his caseworker with early intervention. And then we got the developmental test and like they told me he had like autism and I'm not gonna lie, like I was like very like sad. It was hard for me because I felt like my child been fighting since the day he was born. Like he's been fighting to take his breath on his own. Like he's been fighting. Like I just wanted something like normal for him.
Right.
I didn't want people to look at him like the way they do like special needs people. Like cause I've been in the in that field, so I see when people look like, what's wrong with I just didn't yes. I didn't want that for my son. So then I was like, you know what, Lord? Like, I can't say why me, why not me? You picked me for a reason to be his mother, to, have a child with autism, to beat the odds. So I'm going to make sure like he lives like his best life because he technically isn't supposed to be here. Like he's really a miracle. So I just had to like kind of come with terms with that. I did go to therapy. So
I was just going to ask, let me stop for a second, because you're a woman of faith and when you get a child that's quote unquote different and you're like, well, like, how was your conversation with God? Like a little bit. Cause I know like, I'm a woman of faith and I know when my son was born premature, I'm like, God, what's up?
Right.
Like, right. I done prayed for this boy. You done told me I'm having a boy. We got to do all what?
Right.
Because the first 18 months, basically, he spent his life in the hospital. And then, throughout the years, and he's 15, you can't tell anything.
Right.
The only thing you could tell is like it's from when he had his feeding tube, but he won't let nobody see. But like I had to have the conversation with God because I'm like you said, like when somebody's different, the world looks at them different.
Right.
And even though it's our mom, we're moms and we don't want them to look different, but we're always gonna love them no matter what.
Exactly.
But the world doesn't love them.
Right.
So what was your conversation with God? How did you take it? Like,
I already knew like it was going to be like a battle, and to be honest, everything that I went through with losing my daughter and Jace being in the NICU, and it's been like a roller coaster ride because he was in there for 4 months.
right.
This was my first pregnancy.
Wow.
So
your first pregnancy,
yes,
twins.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So like this was my normal. I just like kind of like learned how to adapt. It actually drew me closer to God, like drew me closer, like in my faith. Like I always, believed in God and everything. And then like when I lost my daughter, my friend invited me to her uncle's Bible study. And I'm like, I ain't never been to Bible study. Like I know him, but I don't know him like that. Like
I don't know him.
What if they ask me questions? Like I'm not going to know nothing. She like, just come. So I was like scared. I was nervous because I'm like, I ain't never been to Bible study ever. So I went and I was like, oh, I like it. Like they were very friendly. So I like started going. I started getting like more in touch with my faith. So when this storm came and they was like, oh, he has autism, I was just like, I wasn't upset. I wasn't mad. Mm-hmm. I was just like, Lord, help me get through this. I was sad. I was very sad, but I wasn't angry.
Okay. Yeah.
I think because like at least he's still here. Yeah. Because I lost my, having grade 4 bleeds of the brain. He walks on his tiptoes, so he does wear braces. And all this stuff that he wasn't supposed to be here with. If autism and braces is what I got to deal with, right, and I still got him, I'll take it because it could be a lot worse, right, Absolutely. So I wasn't angry. I was sad. I'm not gonna lie, I was sad. That's why I had to go to therapy because it hit me very rough. Like I was just so sad. I wasn't angry. I was just sad, and I was just like, oh my God, like why me? And then I just started like, you know what? I'm like, that's just a trick of the enemy,
right?
And I always tell people like, no matter what you believe in, you have to believe in something when you're going through these tough times, because you could fall for anything. Because I could have just gave up.
Absolutely.
Like I could have returned to drugs. So it just amazes me like how strong I was, because I always like prayed for God to like give me strength. Like, Lord, just give me strength. And I feel like this that he put in my way like made me realize I had strength all along.
I know. And it's so interesting, like when we go through things, that's when we know what we have, because if you're not using it, how do you really kind of know what you have?
Yes.
So when we go to different storms, that's where, our faith, I have a saying that faith works better in the dark.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it works better in the dark. It's seen in the dark.
Yeah.
So, that's amazing, because sometimes, like you said, and I've seen this being, in the medical field, and not just that, I'm also a court-appointed special advocate for kids in foster care.
Okay.
So I see like a whole lot of different things, and I see how sometimes parents just give up, or especially if the kid is complex. I've had families who there's a nursing home in Delaware called Exceptional Kids, and it's literally a nursing home for kids.
Wow.
Because there's some parents who either can't take care of their special needs children, or don't have the help, or just whatever it is, and sometimes they get burnt out. Yeah. So they do respite care, and also they actually these they even into adult. I think they take them until like 26 or something like that.
Okay.
Because a lot of systems, once you're 18, because if they don't end up, they end up like in a regular nursing home, like a geriatric. Wow. Yeah, there's some special needs who were just young and like Down syndrome and stuff like that, and they go into the nursing homes, and that's no place for a child. Well, they're not children, but they're adults, but yet they still have the mind of a child.
Right.
So this particular place is in Delaware, which they need more, but it allows parents to be able to send their children there long term, so long-term care place.
Right.
But I've seen parents give up, or curse God out, denounce God, or be angry with people, even treat their child bad because of the hand that they were dealt.
Right.
So I think, I applaud you for not
Thank
even,
you.
I mean, after your daughter died and then you still had to continue the journey, that's a lot of faith. That's a lot of
Yeah.
strength from God to be able
Yeah.
to keep going, because that's not easy.
Yeah,
And
it
how old is
wasn't.
Jace now?
Jace is 7.
Yeah, so
He is
you were right,
7.
7 years.
Yes, he
and
is
he still
7.
has a long life ahead of him.
Yeah, and it's just like it's so good to see like how much he has matured and just seeing like the growth. Like he has his speech device now for I would say like 2, maybe going on 3 years. And Donna, he works it better than me. He had it in Spanish the other day. I was like, sir, I'm gonna need for you to put that back to English because I don't even know how you got it to Spanish. Like, put it back to English, please. And he went on and he put it back to English. So like, it's funny because when he gets like new therapists and stuff, like they're like so amazed at how like intelligent he is. Like his teacher, like he already knows how to do those things you're trying to ask him. Like he knows his alphabet, he knows his numbers 1 through 20. Like he knows his colors, his shapes. Like he can spell his name on his thing. And if you ask him how he's feeling, he can tell you how he feels. And that just makes my heart full because when they was like, oh, he's nonverbal, I'm like worried because I'm like, how can he tell me how he feels? Or, I want him to be able to communicate with everybody. Right. So I started teaching him like different signs. So like he can tell me, like when he was little, like I taught him milk, juice, like please, thank you, like different things. Like I learned, like I went on like YouTube and I did sign in with Alex and Annie. It's like this lady, it's like a kid friendly thing. So like I learned, I'm like, come on, we're gonna watch this. And I learned and I like taught him, but it was like, I just want him to know like some things before I just don't want him pointing at stuff or, getting frustrated because he can't express himself. So having special needs kids, you kind of have to do your own research too.
Absolutely.
Because it was like they told me Jace has autism and like that was it.
That was it. They didn't
so,
tell you.
Like, I'm like,
autism.
yeah.
Because, like you said, autism is the umbrella, but there's Asperger's, there's all these different type of things.
So it's like, okay, so I kind of knew what autism was because I had worked at Elwyn before. And like my mom works in the field. So I already like knew how to deal with special needs, like kids. But I'm like, what if I wasn't a mom or a parent that didn't know anything? It was kind of like, okay, your child has autism. He can qualify to go to Elwyn. He's like, then you have a meeting with Elwyn, and then you got speech, you got OT, you got PT, and like they're having this meeting, and they're asking you like what he likes, so it can be very overwhelming, and just like you said, burnt out. Like being a caregiver is a lot. Yeah. You can get overwhelmed. Like you can, feel burnt out. Like you can have them days like where you just want to give up, like, and it's okay to not be okay. Like it's plenty of times where I had to like go in my room and just like break down and cry.
Me too.
Because you just like you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and a lot of people don't understand like the worries that you have when you have a kid with special needs, because you like, Lord, when I get older, like who's gonna care for him like I do? Like I seen these kids in these homes and I see how people like mistreat them or just treat them in those type of ways. So like, that's like my biggest fear. Like if I'm going, like, I just want to make sure he's okay. Right. I want him to live like his full life. But people with like kids who aren't unique, they just like, they know their kids are going to grow up. Right. They either going to go to college or they're going to get a job. Like they're able to be independent on their own, where it's like, okay, he's always going to be with me. Right. Even if he's like not like dependent on me, like he's always going to like kind of need me for something. Yeah,
I think that's definitely like one of the concerns, that when you have kids that are unique, it's like, I know a lot of parents that I dealt with with special needs, they always, even if a grandparent is raising a child, they're like, okay, what's going to happen when I die? Like, what's going to happen? And I know that there's a couple of families that I'm connected with that have me, if something happens to them, like they sign their kid over to me. I don't know how all of a sudden all these families is like Donna, can you raise them if I can't raise them anymore? Of course, I love them and build relationships with them. And I wouldn't want them to go, to anybody, but they really need to be around people that they know, and people that know them to how to communicate with them, like you said. So I think that's very important, to be able, to teach him early of how to communicate. Because so many times, like I said earlier, like they sit these kids in the corner and don't expect them to do anything.
Right.
But who is it? The Google guy, right? The guy who owns Google, I forgot his name. He has Asperger's, so he has autism.
Right.
And he's running $1 billion companies.
Right.
Right. So it's not that they can't do things depending on what spectrum they're on. But if you teach them and you like, they have dreams, goals, and aspirations too. It's not like they're just mute people that just sit over there and do nothing. Like back in the day, that's what they thought. But now they got so much technology
and they have so much personality. Like it's just so amazing. Like Netflix has a series called Love on the Spectrum, where it's like
Sister was telling me about that today.
Oh my God, I love it. It's like they're like in, I think like in Britain. They're like overseas, but it's like kids who are autistic and they're older, like they're adults, they're like their 20s and 30s, and they want to find love, and they actually have like speed dating events for people with autism or like a disability. It's this lady, she's like a coach, and she kind of shows them how to kind of show empathy and how to have a conversation, or, you know, okay, we're on a date, so what would you do? Like, what type of questions would you ask me? And it's like, when I first watched it, I was bawling my eyes out, Donna. I was like, oh my God, this is so, like, it's so beautiful, because it gives you hope. Like, you know, some parents be like, I don't know what my child's gonna do, but the fact that you see, you know, kids on the spectrum, like the one couple was like living on their own, they end up getting married. Like, it was just so cute, because you know, even though they're adults, you know, their mind is young. So just to see them like, just, oh yeah, like, oh, he held my hand and all this stuff. So it's just like so cute and innocent. So yeah, I would definitely check it out.
I was with my sister today, and she told me about that. I said, really?
Love on the Spectrum.
She loves it. She was like, Donna, I'm telling you need to watch it, because it's like, especially since you deal with a lot, you know, that is something good to watch. I don't really watch too much TV,
but it's a good one to watch.
That's something I'll probably watch.
Yes, you'll love it.
The other thing, I had a situation, right? In our town, the town of Middletown, they shut down our electric. There was like a major electric problem where one of the lines went down the whole town. I mean, there was no restaurants and nothing open, right? They said it was going to be down for 12 hours. So, right?
Lord.
I know, right? So, I'm not sitting in the house struggling for 12 hours. Like, I packed the kids and the dog up, and we went to a hotel. Right. But the reason why I mentioned this, so I went to the hotel, and when we first drove in the hotel, we saw a young man, special needs. He was Down syndrome, special needs, African American man. And the way he was like going in the parking lot, and I'm like, well, why is he by himself? What's going on? Like, immediately I'm like, okay, something a little off here, but I don't know. I'm just pulled up here.
Right.
So I go in there and check in, and he comes in, and the lady at the check-in said, wait, where you going? What you doing? And he was like, no, I ain't doing nothing. They always like, I ain't do nothing. They ain't
right.
So he wasn't, he was verbal a little bit, you know. So she kept asking a question, but I felt the vibe, something was off with this young man. Because I'm like, why is this man, I mean, I knew he wasn't a little boy.
Right.
He was a man. And he just kept saying, I ain't do nothing wrong. So she kept saying, but what were you doing with that man? What's going on? What that man trying to do? Is he trying to get you to smoke? You know, because she thought he was going to be smoking marijuana or something like that. But I'm still like, why is this guy out here by himself? Is that his family? So the guy was like, no, he trying to, and he was like, he was trying to, oh my God, me, right? So I'm like, I knew something was off, right? And he's not, and she said, so where do you live? He was like, over there. So then he pulled his ID out. This man was 30 years old. He was 30 years old, African-American man, Down syndrome. And he was over there by a hotel. I don't know. And the first thing I'm thinking, like, where's your mom at?
Right.
And one of the things that came to my mind, because the week before when Tamara Lolly was on, she was saying that she don't go nowhere without her son. She don't let Byra be anywhere, anything like that.
Yeah.
And I thought about her when this happened in the situation. I'm like, why is this man?
Yeah,
so
that's
he
a
started
fear of
like
mine.
crying. I said, listen, it's okay. You're not in trouble. You're not going to be in trouble, because he thought he was in trouble. I'm like, no, we just want to help you. Are you okay? What's going on? Did anybody hurt you? And he kept saying, he kept trying, couldn't get in. It couldn't get in. So he was like, and it was 5:00. He had to be back home. So he was like, I gotta go home. And I'm like, call the cops.
Right.
I'm telling the front lady, listen, call the cops because this is a problem.
Right.
So we took a picture of his ID, and he was so scared to get home. So we let him go home. I watched in front of the parking lot, go across, like he went off the property, and then the cops came, and they were able to go because we had the ID, the address. And the mom said this was the first day she allowed him to be out by himself.
I know she heartbroken. I'm about to cry thinking about it.
Yeah, she said she always have him. And then he didn't have a cell phone either. She was just like, this was the first time I let him, and I told him he had to be back by 5. And the minute like she took her eye off of him, something like this happened.
Yeah, that's
so
like
I
what
said
my
all that to
deepest
say
fear.
that, you know, when you said that these kids got to be with you for the rest of their life, like they're not going off and doing, you know, A, B, and C. Like you're literally taking care of your children until one of you depart.
Right.
And that's a task. You know, he's 30.
Yeah, because people can easily take advantage. And that's like very scary. That's the scariest thing on my mind. Like I pray about it. Like, Lord, please don't let anybody try to take advantage of my son. Try to like, you know, do something to him like that, because he can't express himself.
Right.
Like, and at least he was able to say like
yeah, he couldn't get it out. He just knew it was wrong, and he just knew what was. So he showed us what was trying to take place.
Right.
And I was just like, I just thank God that I was in that position that I would be able to help him.
Right.
And that sometimes, you know, people just, that's not my business. I'm going my business.
Right.
But I believe as children of God, everybody's our business.
Exactly.
And I'm not being nosy. I'm trying to help you.
Right.
You know, so our job is to build people up. So when I saw that, and the lady at the front desk, she said, "Oh my God, I just can't believe this." I'm like, this happens on a daily basis. So we got to be careful with our children. Not just our, you know, children who can speak, but even especially our nonverbal children.
Yeah, because like at least she was there. Like, because what if she like would have called the cops and he's like, I didn't do anything, and they don't know. Like, okay, what do you mean you didn't do anything? Where are you coming from? And they probably was, you know how they drill and ask questions, but you know, kids who are unique, you have to let them process what you say. Yeah. Like I watched the video and they was basically saying like, you know, the mind of like somebody who's autistic, they like just started throwing all these questions like at like a person. They was like, think about like how that makes you feel. Now that's how a person with autism feels. Like you have to give them like 5 minutes or like a nice pause so they can process what you just asked them to do. Right, so, you know, that was like a learning thing for me too, because I have to give Jace like step by step things. I can't say, Jace, go get your coat and your shoes and come over here.
Yeah, I
like,
can't even do that with my daughter, the 15-year-old. She
It's
like, you guys told me 2 minutes has. Like, can I process this? Can I? Like, and in my mind, like, come on, get your shoes, get your coat, whatever.
Right.
But like you said, with somebody, you know, who needs to really be able to process it.
Yeah.
And then get upset because they're not moving fast enough for doing things. So I think that's definitely important to be. So it's almost like hear what they're not saying. You know, like you got to kind of be body language and everything else. Like when they're not getting something.
Yeah, and I could tell because he'll be like kind of confused. Like, wait, she told me. Like, because if I say get your sneakers, he'll be like, wait, what? But if I say get your shoes, he understands it. Okay. Because I be like, Jace, get your sneakers, and he'd be looking like, wait, what am I getting? Like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, get your shoes. And he'll like bring me his shoes. So it's just like kind of like, okay, you can't say sneakers. He's really not going to get it. I'm like, these are sneakers too. Try to like let up, you know, see it and stuff. But that's like that story is like a huge fear of mine. Another one is like, you know, already are black men growing up and, you know, the cops, because I'm like, you know, autism doesn't have a face. Right. My fear is he might be like going to school or something might happen and they're trying to tell him to do something and he can't communicate with you to say, oh, this is this. So that's like another like huge fear of mine too.
Remember, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, there was an African American man and the aide was with him and the aide was like, he don't hear you, he don't understand. And the cop kept telling the man, I mean, I don't know how old he was, but he was a big guy. Right. They get on the ground, get around, and they wasn't understanding, and he moving and all this other stuff, and he ended up getting shot. Right. That's the whole thing. Yeah. And I said, then I was like, this is why they need, you know, sensitivity training, because you don't know, or even somebody dealing with mental disorder, like there's triggers. And, it is. And they're not processing what you're saying. So that is definitely like, so not only that we have to deal with the fact of a black man, you know, dealing with stuff, but then a black man who's unique.
Yep.
You know,
it's like yeah.
Because the average black family, you know, we're now having conversations with our sons. Like, listen, this is what you do if you get pulled over. This is what you do if you're walking it.
Right.
How do you have that conversation with a unique child,
Exactly.
an autistic child?
Exactly. Like, it's just, I guess when he gets like a little older, like I would kind of have it, but it's kind of like, how do I teach him that? Yeah. Like, especially even like with death, like my grandfather passed away like going on 2 years now, and I'm like, how am I going to explain to Jace like his great grandfather is like not coming back? And at the time we were staying with them because I was saving for a house and I was helping my grandmother, you know, take care of my grandfather. So they were like two peas in a pod. Right. Like they napped together and everything. Like we used to be like, well, who's watching who? Because is right. Jace watching the 83-year-old or is the 83-year-old watching Jace? Like, you know, so they watched their like gospels together, everything. So it's just like, I was like, how am I going to tell him like, Papa? I've told him like, you know, Pop-Up's in heaven. But I felt like he sensed it because he carried this picture of my grandfather around everywhere. He slept with it and everything. So I'm like, yeah, that's Papa. Like he's in heaven. He's in heaven. And like when we go like to the grave site and like see like the cemetery, like he loves going there. He cries when we have to leave. I'm like, sir, we're not staying here. It's getting late. It's getting dark. Like we got to like we got to go. Yeah. Okay, I'm like, sir, it's a no for me. Like get in this car. But it's like just those type of conversations. Like, how am I going to like tell them? Like, I do talk to him. Like, I tell him, okay, because he doesn't have to have a schedule. Like, you know, some autistic kids, they have to have a certain schedule. They have to have, you know, their meal this way, that way. Or he's a chameleon. He can adapt to his own environment. So it's like amazing too. He is kind of like a picky eater, which is. It's a challenge sometimes. Like it's definitely yes. Oh gosh, it is. I'll be like, come, like try this. I like try to make him try food or put him in my mouth. Like we having a whole battle. I'm like, just try the food, just try it. So it's like certain like things you have to do to try and get like him for like the vegetable wise. So I get like the Tyson has like their chicken nuggets. But they have like half chicken nuggets and half vegetables. Really? Yes. They like dino nuggets, but you got to look. It says half vegetable, half.
Well, that's some new stuff out there.
And it tastes just like regular chicken nuggets. So I'm like, oh, we're going to get this. Chef Boyardee, the green containers, they have that's cauliflower pasta.
What?
Listen, you gotta work this system because this boy, they was like, well, why don't you? Because I was making like spaghetti because he loved like spaghetti, and I was like putting the broccoli in it and like feeding it to him. Then he started getting hip. He looking at the thing like, what's that green stuff? So he would open his mouth a little bit, but where he seen like the green, and he would like bite around it. So I'm like,
you know, because they smart, like they have better sense. I said they got spidey senses.
I said you too smart for your own good, okay? Like you too smart.
Yeah, that is good because one of the issues medically with kids who are unique, their teeth seem to be a huge issue.
That was like a big thing I was scared of. But his teeth is like they're like oh, he doesn't have any he doesn't have any cavities or anything. Like his teeth is good. The only thing they say like he grind his teeth a little bit, so they're kind of like all like even. But they was like it's not a worry that we think like he's like grinding it down to his, you know. Like down to the things, but he just lost like his 2 teeth at the bottom. Okay. So those are the only adult teeth he has right now. Okay. So I was like very concerned. So me being the advocate that I am, I'm like, can he have an emergency? Like, can we hurry up with his dentist appointment? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, because I'm concerned because he hasn't lost any teeth, and he's 7. I'm like,
Sometimes
is it like,
that happens,
is it
though.
feeding issue? Like I have to ask. I don't play when it comes to like this type of stuff. Like
He's like, wait, what's going on? I know other kids have lost teeth by now. What's going on?
I'm like, he hasn't
But
lost
even the average kids
anything.
sometimes don't lose it like that.
Donna,
Look,
I was scared. I
You
was
was
like,
like- you're
wait,
like,
because like my little, like the little cousins and stuff, I'm like, they younger than you, and they walking around here snaggletooth, and you still got your baby teeth.
like, I
Like,
want my teeth. I want my picture with your snagger tooth.
I'm
What's
like,
going
I'm
on?
scared. What's going on? And they was like, oh, well, these teeth are like loose. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, wait a minute. They said these teeth been loose for a minute. These teeth ain't come out yet. And I could see like, so his bottom 2 teeth was growing behind the baby. So I'm like, oh no. Like I was scared because like some kids with special needs, they have like sometimes they have like teeth growing over top. So I'm like, oh no. I'm like even freaking out even more. I'm like, I'm about to call the dentist again. And then he was eating one day and he was like, I'm like, what? So his one tooth came out. So I was like, oh, I got it. Then like the other tooth came out. But I'm like, well, where did your tooth go? So I'm like, did you swallow it?
Exactly.
So I think he swallowed it.
Every parent nightmare and fear is like, did you swallow your teeth? I know, like with my son, he was preemie. He wasn't a micro preemie, like, but he never ate like baby food, and he has texture issues. He has like food aversion and stuff. So it took longer for his teeth to come out. That's why I'm saying I'm laughing. I'm like,
I was like,
it
what
took
is going
longer,
on?
and then. Them baby teeth just seemed like they didn't want to leave.
Right.
Like his other teeth, he had to get them removed because they did not push out.
Wow.
And that's because, one of the ways for the kids to lose teeth is because the way they eat. Like they eat, they're chopping and things like that. But if you're not using that, they're like, well, what we need adult teeth for? We ain't even using these baby teeth.
Right. I'm like, I was nervous. I was like, what's going on? Wait a minute. We're going to have to do some calls.
I think that's so awesome that you're able to take care of his oral needs because it's a lot of, they have like oral hygiene issues, whatever, because it's a fight, Yeah. It'd be a fight. And then as they get older, like these kids strong. I was talking to Tamara last week, like, she was saying how she literally had to sometimes fight with Big. Like, I mean, he's strong because they get these super strength. I don't know what's going on with all this extra strength. I think it's when they preemie, they gotta get them all that steroids and stuff because their lungs ain't developing, right? And then they just all of a sudden they got like super strength. Like my son, I'm like, it's some steroids that you have when you.
Because Jason like tapped me, but he be like, I'm like, gentle hands, sir. Like you do not have to like. He be tearing my like that. I was like, sir. Gentle, like be gentle. So he'll be like, I'm like, that's much better. How can I help you? So yeah.
So what's it like for education for Jace? Like,
he's now he's into like regular school. He went to Elwyn until I would say 6 because I made him do like an extra year, like he could do an extra year. Because I was like, I wasn't ready. Okay?
I was crazy.
I'm not gonna lie. They was like, I was like, he's not ready. He's not mature enough. Like, what if they bully my kid? Like, he can't express how he feels. Like, I was just a nervous wreck. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted him to stay. I didn't want him to leave Elwyn. So he's at Main Street. Okay. He's doing very well there. His teacher, shout out to Miss Schwinn and Miss Terry, the IA. They do really good with him. Like, he's the mayor of Main Street. Like, everybody knows him. Like, even though, like, some of the older kids, like, the one little boy, his siblings are there, too. So, like, at parent-teacher night, they was like, Mom, that's Jace. And she was like, I hear so much about him. And he's so newsy. Like, he, like, has to look down the hallway. So they like, Jason,
man. Always, I'm telling you, he's sitting around here.
And, like, he always looking out the hallway. Like, he see Kev, yes, God works there. So he always be looking like, what's Kev doing? Kev's like, Jace, that's my man. That's my buddy right there. So it's just, it feels good. It feels reassuring that, so many people like love your kid how you love them.
Right. Like your village, building your village.
Right.
Because that's one of the hardest decisions is really when your kid is unique. Do you put them in a regular setting or do you keep them in a more geared to what they have or what they have going on?
Right.
And I think that, it's important to depends on your kid. Like know your kid what they need. I know like with Joshua, like he was in a medically complex daycare, right? So he was in daycare with nurses and stuff, and they let that boy do whatever they want. Let me tell you, this boy was walking around with his feet and pump on his back, carrying oxygen for a little girl. She can't breathe, and they all rocking and rolling in this medical daycare, right? And then I'm like, okay, this is what we doing. But then I took him out of there once he got his feeding tube out and put him in a preschool with regular children because like we're not going to be sitting around just being around people who look like us, talk like us.
Because you got to get out into the world.
Because they got to be able to learn and pick up new things
That's
too.
right.
So it's always like scary to put your child in a regular setting, but I think that they thrive better. From my experience, I see kids who are medically complex and they get in like a regular class and they talk, as long as, you know, there's teachers there and they talking to them and we explain to other kids, like, they do really well. I know my daughter who's 17, she works really well with complex kids. She was in a class and she just loved doing, like, one of her best friends, his name's Chris. Let me tell you, her and Chris be rocking out. Chris he has autism. Okay. But he's not nonverbal, but he got, you know, some delays or whatever, and they rock. And his mom said that he just thrives because Lizzie took the time out with him. So I think it's so important. Like, we're so afraid and want to protect our kids from everything. Right. But I think, like you said, there's people in the community that know you, know your child, and you're raising it. It takes a village to raise a child, no matter if they're special needs or not. It takes a village. So I think that's pretty good that Jace can see people he know in a community in his school so that he feels safe. Right.
And it's all too, like, I feel like you know how your kid thrives. Like, at least you tried it, and if it doesn't work, okay, we can put you back in your placement. Like, so, you know, they have the autism support classes, but they, like, the school had a fashion show so all kids can do it. And I thought that was, like, really nice that they included, you know, even, like, this autism support classes, you know, did it. And it was just, like, a cute little thing to see all the little kids do their little fashion shows and stuff. So, you know, and, like, they did field trips. You know, they took them to, like, different places and stuff. So I'm like, at least, like, you're getting out with your class. You know, you can move around and
of what it's like to be around. Because I also believe in order to thrive, you can't be around those who are just at your level. You should be around somebody's lower than you, somebody's above you, so that those from lower than you can reach for where you are, and then you can reach to the next level too. And just because you're complex and mega complex doesn't mean that you can't reach.
That is true. You
know, we don't want to put people in a box. I have another question. So, being that, you know how you say he gets his moments where he's loud or he goes through some things, like, you know, how do you handle it? I was just I just saw it in the news. It wasn't an autistic kid, it was just a baby, but the baby was on an airplane crying. Oh, you know that one? Yeah. And that guy snapped out, and they had to pull the plane over. They were supposed to be going to Fort Lauderdale, I think, and they ended up having to pull in Miami. Because the man was snapping out. I don't know, somebody ticked his talk or whatever.
He ain't have his Wheaties today.
I don't know what happened, but this man went off.
He was.
Because the baby was crying too long. So I thought about that. I was like, how do you know, if you have a child who has special needs, like, in the society is not okay with your child, you're okay with your child, but, like, do you isolate your child? Do you say, okay, I'm never going to take my baby on a plane. I'm never going to take Jason on a plane because he might go off. Like, I'm never going to allow him for him to experience things that other people experience just because somebody else may not be happy or understanding about that situation.
I would never dull my child's. I would never dull his light at all. Like, I tell, you know, my friends, like, one of my friends, she had a baby. And she has Down syndrome. And I'm like, she is the most beautifulest little chocolate thing ever. And she like, you know what? You, like, really inspired me when I was, like, trying to make my decision because they wanted me to terminate the pregnancy and all that. She was like, and I just look at you and I see how, like, you know, you do stuff with them. And she was like, you really inspired me. And I told her, I said, don't ever put your child in a box. They gonna try to put her in a box. Don't ever put her in a box. She can do anything that she can put her mind to it. I said, and push her. You can push her to her greatness. You know your child's limits, you know? So I always say I will never, like, put him in a box. Like, the most Jace does, like, he might, like, whine. Sometimes he has his moments where he just having a whole tantrum. I step away. I let him be great. And, like, it's like he knows, like, when he, like, does something wrong, because then he'll come back, like, and I'll be like, are you okay now? You're okay? Like, I get down on his level, his eye level, and I'll be like, listen, it's okay. You're going to be fine. I know you don't want to do this, but it's time to lay down. So give me a hug. I love you. Like, or if he know like he did something, he'll like give me a kiss. Like, I'm like, thank you so much. But you still have to do this. It's okay. So just kind of like giving them that moment to like, have their 10 for tantrum. Okay. I'll be like, okay, well, I'll see you when you're done.
Right.
Or if he's whining, I'll count. I'll be like 1, 2. And by the time I get to 5, he'll be like, I'll be like, okay, you're ready? We can start back now. We can try it again. So just kind of learning how to like de-escalate them.
Right.
And kind of like if they're so much fixated on this one thing and they can't have it, kind of making them like change their mind. Like he might have be on the floor doing his little temper tantrum and I'll be like, oh, can you help me pick this up? Like, oh, put this in the trash for me. Like, thank you. So just like, just that instant, by him putting that in trash, he done forgot why he over here having a whole like temper tantrum.
Right.
So that's what I do. Like, or if I feel myself getting frustrated because he's acting up, he doesn't want to listen, I'll just excuse myself, get myself together, then come back like, okay, so I need you to pick this up. I need you to clean this up. I need you to do this. And, do it like that. But, I mean, I just let him be him. Like, a kid is going to be a kid. Like, we all have our good days. We all have our bad days. If someone was ever to approach me like that, like, I'll probably turn into, like, Cookie Lion. But I'm praying that God spares me from that because it's like, you already see, like, my child is having a whole moment, a whole meltdown.
And
like,
then you're going to add to it.
And then you're going to add to it, like, oh, my God, make sure that baby needs to be quiet. That's, like, it's a baby. Be considerate. But some people aren't considerate. Right. So sometimes you just got to let people be who they are.
Let them be great.
Yeah.
I like how you basically still make sure that you discipline Jace. Like,
oh, yeah. I hold him accountable.
You hold him accountable.
Yes. Because I tell him, I'm like, Jace knows what he's doing.
I think that is so awesome because even, if your child is not medically complex, it's hard raising kids, man.
It is.
It is a hard not life out
it
here.
Is.
And it takes work and patience.
Yes.
Not to get, I tell the story all the time. I remember my one daughter, she was having like emotional breakdown and she was throwing stuff around the house. And, I grew up where, don't do that in my house.
Right.
Like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
And she was having some issues. And I'm chasing her up the steps or whatever. I'm like, oh, don't do that. Don't slam my door. Don't do that. Like, and it took my son to say, Mom, you antagonizing her. Like, why? Let her have her moment. Let her chill. Let her, deal what she got to deal with. And then she always comes back to you and apologize. And then it makes sense. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. But I didn't know that.
But at least you received that from them. Because, some parents can be like, oh, be quiet. You
mind your business.
Yeah, don't tell me what to do with my child.
I'm a different type of parent. Like my kids talk, I let them have their opinions, and I can agree or disagree, but I'm going to let them have a voice.
Right.
So the fact that he said that to me, and I know my kids aren't disrespectful. They never really disrespect me. They teens now, though. These 15 and 17-year-olds.
They feeling themselves.
Jesus, take the wheel. But the fact that he said that to me, and I just was like, and I think that helped him to know that I heard him.
Right.
And then that helped her say, wow, like, we're in the family. We're in this together.
Yeah.
But because I know, like, with my son, because he was so medically complex, I didn't discipline him. I let that boy run rampant all over the place, and that I couldn't deal when I had to get therapy or how to deal with him. They had that parent-child intervention therapy. Listen, I could not because I was so focused on his medically complex. Like, I wanted that boy to breathe, live.
Right.
I didn't pay attention to his behavior. So that boy was bopping everywhere going on, and I didn't know what to do. I just was like, this is not working out, okay? I can't get along with him. He loving on me, but why he won't listen to me?
Right. Yeah, so no, Jace
had to learn how to talk to him differently, and because he needed. Because early on they thought he was on the autism spectrum because a lot of things that everywhere was a lot was going on with him. Now he's so quiet, don't really want to talk. But I think that's so important that we let parents know, like, listen, it doesn't matter what kind of child you have, how unique your child is, like. Children still need structure. Yeah, they do. They need discipline. It's our job as parents to make sure that we give them that. We are their first teachers. We're their first, we're their cheerleader. We're everything for them. So, and they trust us. I know whenever my kid get in a situation, you know what they say? Mom, I trust the decision you're making for me. So, and that's because from the beginning, it's like trying to groom them. Like, I'm making the best decision for you. I'm telling you, this is not just because it's the right decision, it's the best decision.
Right.
So I think that's awesome that you're like early, so that you know, who knows, Chase might be up here starting another internet service.
Yeah, I do not play. Like, he had to learn like patience. Like, my grandma, he wants his food now. He has to wait. He has to learn how to wait. Cause if we go to a restaurant and he waiting for his, like, no, he has to wait.
Wow. Yeah.
He will be okay. He's not going to die. He's going to get his food, but he has to wait. So you can sit at your table, scoot up to the table, sit up, and I will get you your food when it's done.
That's good.
Like, I'm like, no. And like, I made him request. Because I know he want his Pop-Tarts. He'll go like this. No, you need to go get your device and tell me what you want. Pop-Tart, no. What do you say? I want Pop-Tart, please.
Wow, yeah.
And use your manners. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't play. Like, my mom be like, he want, don't give him that. He needs to ask for it.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to be able to tell you what he wants, not just point.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't play. I be like,
and because you're training him like that, he's gonna go far with that, because you're not keeping him in a little box. You're letting him know that he's important.
Yeah.
That he's here. Like, you hear him, he's being heard. And most kids, no matter what they're going through, they all want to know that they're being heard.
Yeah. Yeah, he might the whole way to get his tablet. Okay, you still gonna get that tablet. I'm like, well, if you don't tell me, then you're not getting it. Like, I might
need you to come talk to my 15-year-old, because this one she's testing my inner gangster. It's just like the little one. Yeah, she just like
I don't play.
Like, and you know, for me being a single mom, like I'll tell her no one time, and then she come back around saying, I'm like, yes, and I done forgot that I told her no, because I done did 20 other different things. Yeah. But I need to teach her not to be able to come ask me back again.
Listen, like Jace, he knows his tablet goes off at a certain time. It's a timer.
Wow.
So he'll like go in my mom's room so she can like unlock the code so he can get on YouTube and listen to his gospels. I'll be like, didn't I tell you it's time to put the tablet up? He'll give me the thank you very much. Now it's time to go to bed. He'll be fine. It's okay. You can use it tomorrow, but it's time for bed now. It's 9:00. Wow.
And there's something how they can just be so sneaky too.
I'm like, you not slick, sir. You not slick. Yeah, but it's some challenges like potty training. Oh gosh.
That's what I was gonna say. What are some of the challenges that you face? Like
potty training, getting him to sleep in his own bed, because it's like World War III. Like, if I make Jace like go in his bed, he's screaming, he's kicking. Like, you would think I'm in there like killing him. I said, thank God my neighbor don't think I be abusing my kid, because he's in there screaming at the top of his lungs, and I didn't even do nothing. I just told him lay down. So like, I literally have to like stay in his room with him until he goes to sleep. But he's still in the middle of the night. I don't know what time. I don't know when. He always ends up in my bed.
Back in your bed.
So those are like my challenges, but it's like, it's crazy because when he goes like to his dad's house, his dad is telling him like, okay, lay down, and he'll like lay down.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Yeah. You don't give him a hard time. Like, you hear me every day. Like,
I know.
But those are my challenges, because especially like the, with the potty training thing, and like that kind of makes like, I'm hard on myself about that, because I kind of feel like bad, like he's not potty trained. So sometimes I only have like a certain like handful of people that I like have watch him, and people be like, I don't care he's potty trained. I'm like, but you don't like. I'll be feeling bad because you have to change him, and like some people like Porsche, like we don't care. Like Jace is fine. Like he's not a bad. Yeah, like he's not a bad kid. He don't get into anything. He stays to himself. If you got steps, that's where he'll be at like all night. He loves steps. He loves sitting on the steps. He sit on the bottom. He sit on the top. He'll have his toys on there. But they was like, he's fine. So it's just like something like I have to kind of get over. Like, I guess that's my insecurity. Cause I'm like, I want him to be like potty trained. Like, I feel like bad. I feel embarrassed. And they're like, Porsche, it's okay.
Listen, think about, so when you have a situation, because there's times that sometimes, as moms, we're always harder on ourselves. Like, we want our kids to listen, because we want them to have less challenges as possible. Yeah. But sometimes, like, things we can't prevent. We can't do those things. Right. So one of the things that I know when potty training sometimes a complex kid, like you tell yourself, listen, their brain is a little bit different. Like, in order to go to the bathroom, you got to have a sensation. You got to have a feel. You
Right.
got to have all those things intact sometimes.
Right.
So it takes a little longer for some people.
Yeah.
You know, like it cracks me up that people be trying to potty train their kid at 1 or 2 years old. I don't understand. It's not even to 3 where they really get the, you know, but I don't know, in our culture, these kids need to be out of diapers and they need to be out because who wants to change a big 2-year-old?
I'm like,
but don't be hard on yourself with that, because you got to think about where he came from.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's here.
Yeah.
I don't care if he pee all over the place. Listen, he's here.
Right.
He's able to pee, right?
Right.
You don't have to stick a catheter in him for him to go to the bathroom.
True. That is
you know?
true. Yeah.
So you got to kind of take things to be like, beat up yourself about, like, if something that you intentionally didn't do.
Right.
You can kind of like, oh, I was supposed to do something else now in that situation. You learn from it. But listen, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Nephew looks great. Everything is great.
Thank you.
Before we close out, is there anything that you could tell any parents that are dealing with any complex kids or autism? You got me all choked up thinking about nephew over here. Because he be sharp. Like, I just have a picture and an image of nephew right now. Anything that you want to tell anybody who's watching who, dealing with stuff?
I know it's hard some days. I know some days you feel like, I just want to give up. I want to throw in the towel. But, stay in that race. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to, get therapy. It's okay to get time to yourself. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to be like, listen, right now, I'm not here. Just let me try to get myself together, but don't give up. Be the advocate for your kid. Push your kid as much as possible. Teach them like what you want to teach them. If you feel like they're not getting the stuff they're getting in school, look for other ways, like look for different schools, different avenues, always, have a plan B, C, and all of that. But definitely like push your kid, be your advocate for your kid. So that way your kid is getting what they want. If you feel like they need more services, let that be known. Look into different resources, and just, even get into like groups. They have Facebook groups with, special needs kids and things like that. And that's kind of like an inspiration too, to kind of be in the space with like-minded people. But, don't give up. You can always reach out to me, Porsché Pinder. I'm on Facebook. You can send me a message. And yeah, just, if you need anything, let me know. Like, we all have to support and help each other.
Thank you, Porsché.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Yes, I really appreciate it.
All right, so join us next week. Every week, we're here at 7 o'clock on Thursdays, and Parenting with a Purpose live. Share, invite with your friends. I think everybody should be engaged in conversation when it comes to parenting. And if you or anybody who wants to be a guest on the show or have any ideas or topics of parenting that I haven't touched yet, and you want us to touch it, or if you have any questions, you can always inbox me at Facebook, or contact the radio station at cmpradio.net, and we'll be sure to make sure that we get back to you. Thank you guys so much.